Hi, welcome to the writing channel on Vlogitorial. My name is Elizabeth Ann Atkins, and I'm going to talk about how we can create characters as writers to convey an idea, an issue, a thought. And in Husbands Incorporated, my new novel, I created a woman named Jane Collins who is extremely insecure. She's insecure about herself. She doesn't think she's attractive. And she's doing everything she can do to enhance how she looks with no thought or effort into what's going on the inside, which is where true beauty begins. And she doesn't understand that at all. She is in a fantasy marriage with her Native American warrior, who's always been her dream man in life. She's always fantasized about beautiful Native American men that she's read about in romance novels and just admired in Western movies and such. And so she grew up with those images, and now she's living the fantasy. But as a writer, creating humans in our stories, the most important element for a person to enjoy love with another person is to have self-love. Without self-love, there's no foundation to love someone else. So, Jane cannot fully enjoy this experience with her husband because she is so insecure about herself, and especially about what she looks like, because she measures her value, as many women do, as society often creates in people, measuring ourselves by what we look like and not who we are on the inside. So I'm going to read a passage. It's the first love scene, wedding night, with Jane and her husband, and it's showing the absolute misery that she's experiencing emotionally inside from her insecurity. It's actually the morning after their wedding night. Jane Collins nestled her nude body into her Native American dream as he slept behind her inside their wedding teepee on the wooded grounds of Husbands Incorporated. The yellow glow of daylight tempted her to raise her eyelids and face the first full day of what would be the most amazing year of her life. She just wanted to lay here and savor every sensation. His breath against the side of her neck, his large hand fanned over her bare stomach, the hot length of his body behind her, the softness of the fur blankets enveloping them, and the earthy scents, the chirping birds. Oh, and the memories of last night! What unbelievable lovemaking! Jane could have cried tears of joy and sobbed that she was almost 35 years old and had not even known that such pleasure was possible. She wanted to run to Venus Roman and bow in gratitude for allowing a regular girl like herself to feel even a minute of what this man had done to her on their wedding night. "Pamela, I hope you're watching," she said to her best friend who had died, "because here I am." Jane sighed with pleasure, which elicited a soft moan from her husband. "Oh, cripe!" Her eyes flew open. Hot pangs of panic shot through her. "He's going to wake up and smell my morning breath. My hair must look like a rat's nest, and I bet my makeup is smeared like raccoon eyes." "Quit it, Jane." She had to relax. The beams of sunlight shooting down from the top of the teepee were so beautiful. His turquoise necklace lay on the fur blanket just inches from her fingers. She touched it, as if to confirm that this were real. If only this teepee had a bathroom where she could avoid being too real by brushing her teeth and freshening up. His soft groan vibrated through her. He ran his hand over her stomach and up to her breasts, which he stroked softly, while something lower died. He gyrated slightly, then kissed her neck. "May I?" he whispered. gently pressing himself between her legs. How would he do that while they were lying on their sides? What if he turned her over and tried to kiss her? Back during her 2 marriages, morning sex had been non-existent, except during the honeymoons, and Jane had always had a chance to hop up, go to the bathroom, and make herself presentable. Now, being with this intimidatingly gorgeous man, who had probably bedded the prettiest girls, she was terrified that he would find her repulsive. "Quit it, Jane. I'm the one who's paying for this. I should enjoy every expensive second." She pressed her backside into him and let out a soft mmm. In an instant, the fantasy became real once again. All those lonely nights when she'd read about the Indian warrior who took his bride and showed her pleasures like she'd never known. That's me right now. Jane closed her eyes as he made love to her. He gently turned her on her back and raised her knees, and you can read that part yourself. "Oh my gosh," she whispered, staring in awe at him. "You're so beautiful." "You are, Jane," he said, doing things that made her gasp. He leaned down to kiss her, and she wanted to turn away, but if he wasn't concerned about his mouth, then she'd try not to worry about hers. He tasted as clean as last night. She prayed that she did as well. For a long time, he continued to make love to her. Her mind whirled the whole time. Are my fake eyelashes still on? I'd love to take out these contacts. And did my deodorant wear off? And do I stink? And is anything jiggling? Could laying on my hair during sex pull out my extensions? Is he looking at me like that because he's being paid to do so? Or would he think I was hot if we met elsewhere? Last night, he demonstrated that he aimed to pleasure her a lot. You can read that. Now a puzzled look in his eyes revealed he was trying hard to accomplish the same goal. Panic seeped through her. She closed her eyes and moaned. He continued making love. If only she could get up and find a mirror, a toothbrush, and a shower. Then she'd be happy to slip back into his arms and relax enough to fully enjoy him as she had last night. But now, sadly, as Jane had become well practiced during the unsatisfying sex of her prior marriages, she cried out and forced her body to tremble. As she faked it, she fought the urge to cry for feeling too hideous to enjoy herself. She just wished this interlude were over so he would stop looking at her like he really loved her. Boy, Venus Roman sure trained these men well. Meanwhile, Jane made a note to always wake up with him in a place where she could dash to the bathroom to primp while he was still sleeping. So much for the Native American authentic experience. Those squaws were so naturally beautiful, they didn't have to worry. Okay. So, they stopped making love, and he says, "You look so pretty, so natural." And she laughs nervously. "Oh, you're supposed to say that, even when the beauty shop magic wears off." "I speak the truth," he said, slowly kissing the backs of her hands, then gazing at her in a way that made her melt inside. Wow, what a good actor, she thought. His profile had said he worked briefly in film, and obviously the training at Husbands, Inc. was all about pretending to be a woman's fantasy man. So he could say he spoke the truth all day long, but none of this was the truth. Jane shook her head. "I'm just a plain Jane, trying to play glam girl. You're the one with the exotic looks to die for." An odd expression glinted in his eyes, almost like she hurt his feelings. "The real me?" He stopped himself. "I'm exotic for you, Jane." "What were you going to say about the real you?" she asked. He laid beside her, covered them with the fur blanket, and reached for his necklace. His hair tickled across her chest. He gazed down at her tenderly. "The real me," he said, "is what I learned in my tribe. We honor humility, surrender of self for the greater good of the people." Jane gazed into his dark eyes, wishing she had just an ounce of his confidence. "Your tribe, it sounds so exotic." "Inner beauty," he said, "is eternal and all-powerful, as we say in our culture." Jane shook her head. "That's really nice, but outer beauty sure will take you places. Lack of it keeps you stuck. Just ask me or any other plain Jane." He ran a fingertip over her temple, over her cheek, to her lips. The tenderness glowing in his eyes baffled her. How could he possibly look so loving when she probably looked so awful right now? "Find your inner beauty, Jane," he said with a compassionate gaze. "It will change the way you look." Her face burned with embarrassment. There, he said it. She needed to change her look. "Hey," she said, "that's easy for you to say. You're like the perfect man straight out of a romance novel." His eyebrows drew together as he stared down at her. Her stomach burned with hunger and all the self-loathing that she had to keep buried from his sight. "What? You look like you can't take a compliment," she snapped. "I wish someone would call me exotic, just once. You don't know what it's like going through life as an invisible brunette." Jane caught a peripheral glimpse of her extensions. "Well, blonde for now. But the real me—" Sadness, no, it was pity, flashed in his eyes. "As you think, so you are," he said. "Listen," Jane snapped, "I can call myself a goddess all day long, but if folks even bother to take one look at me, their eyes flit to the nearest bubbly blonde in a heartbeat." He gently grasped her face, resting her jaw in his palms and staring into her eyes. "Say, I love Jane." A bad feeling crawled over her skin like a burning rash. A nervous giggle shot from her mouth to stop emotion from putting an ugly look on her face. "No, you're supposed to say that." He did not smile or laugh. He just kept staring into her eyes. "Jane, you have to say it first, to yourself, before you can believe me or anyone else saying it." Jane closed her eyes to shut him out and to hide the hot gush of sadness that rose up from her heart. Or was it her soul? Wherever it came from, it made her want to burst into tears. And her only thought was, "I've never said, 'I love Jane,' ever. Should I?" So, in every story, the character has to have a goal and has to change in some way. So this is the issue that Jane is working on, learning to love herself so that she can truly accept love from others. And it was really exciting to weave her progress through the story as the relationship advances. So I hope you can read it and see how I captured the evolution of her self-love, which is the most important ingredient to loving someone else.